Guys, there was a small interruption into our normal TBR that was planned. We have an arc to review. Hey guys, if you are new here, welcome to the Book Path. I'm Nicole, and if this isn't your first rodeo, thanks for sticking around. And it is funny that I'm mentioning rodeos. I mean, I know I always do. It's just part of my intro. But it's funny in this particular sense because while I was going through my emails that I hadn't been through in a while, I found out that I had been invited to participate in reading and reviewing an advanced copy of Chasing the Wild by Elliot Rose, which comes out June 22nd. I received this a few days into June, so I was already a little bit behind the ball on it. But seeing as I had read, I think it was Vengeful Gods by Elliot Rose back in March and had been part of her ARC team for that, I was really excited. Now, Chasing the Wild is more of an age gap cowboy romance. I'm not usually one for Westerns or cowboys or anything having to do with that, but I did enjoy her writing style, and I did enjoy her characters in Vengeful Gods. So I wanted to go ahead and give it a try and see if she could change my mind, see if this would be something that, you know, made me start wanting those cowboy romances, because I do see the appeal of a good-looking cowboy. I can get that. I understand it. So basically, just to tell you, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the book is about, and then a few things that I liked about it and a few things I didn't like about it, and then go from there. So yeah, so Chasing the Wild is, like I said, it is a cowboy age gap romance. You have Layla, who is, I think she's like 24, 25, studying to be a veterinarian, mostly through distance learning courses and online. And she's kind of traveling around doing internships of sorts, getting whatever live learning or building her resume for the veterinary world, as it were, as she can. She's also taking up extra shifts, working her butt off in bars and things like that to provide for an aunt who is basically the mother figure in her life, who is now residing in a sort of assisted living center due to some health complications. So she's taken it upon herself to provide for her aunt because her aunt had provided for her. So obviously she is a busy girl. Enter into her life. She had been dating Casey. I think it's Casey Wild is the last name, hence the title. And he's kind of this wanting to go pro rodeo cowboy, and he's just the party boy. She's attracted to him because he's kind of the life of the party. He's really good looking, but it's just not working out. And so they break up. She's pretty sure he's been, you know, with other women while he was supposed to be with her. And she's now left with some of his stuff. She's trying to get it back to him. He's not picking up the phone. So she's given one address on a note from him before they break up. So she decides she's going to drive there and just dump the stuff and move on with her life. So when she goes to dump it, she goes to a gas station, runs out of gas for whatever reason, has no money in her account to pay for the gas. Enter this older, suave, black-haired, brown-eyed or hazel-eyed, like dreamboat of a cowboy. And he steps up to the plate, becomes the gentleman, kind of saves the day for her and fills her car with gas. They flirt a little bit. And then once he finds out she's not really going to be in town, that's it. So he goes his own way. She goes up to this ranch or whatever where she's believing Casey to be to drop off his stuff. When she gets there, Casey's there, but so is the gruff older cowboy she met at the gas station, and he turns out to be Colt, Casey's father. And so obviously there's a little bit of awkwardness there, but she throws the boxes there, gets it on her way, goes on to live her life until about like 5 or 6 months later, when she gets a call when she's trying to report in for a new job. She gets a call from a bank saying that she took out some loan or something or other, which she never did. And you find out that Casey basically used her name and her information to get some money, and now she is left high and dry to flip the bill on top of everything else that she's trying to cover. So she decides that on the way to her new job, she's going to stop by the ranch where Casey's supposed to live and basically demand the money. So when she does that, it's wintertime, and a snowstorm basically blows in, and she gets back to the ranch and Casey's not there. His father's there. And she kind of roundabout way explains without giving the full truth of what has happened. And it's kind of like odds it ends. So she's like, I'm just going to go. Her car stalls down and breaks down on the way down the mountain from this ranch. She's stuck there. She goes back up to the ranch, and basically, long story short, Colt offers her a job doing veterinary work and being a farmhand on his ranch for the next 5 or 6 weeks during the winter to help him out as well as help her out. He also covers what the money was for Casey's little food bar while Casey is stuck down in town, and the two of them are now snowed in at the ranch for, weeks. So obviously there is attraction. They are fighting this attraction due to not only the age gap, but because Colt is Casey's father, and there is history there. But obviously you have close proximity, stuck in the house, one location, that type of stuff. And, the attraction builds. So that is basically the plot. I am not going to give more than that away. That was just kind of the beginning of it. So there are, let's just go with 3 things that I liked about the book. While I am not one for cowboys and Western romances, I did appreciate it a little bit because it wasn't full-blown cattle drives, horses, it wasn't, it was, you were set at the ranch, there were some horses, there were some cows, but it didn't go into depth about like the cowboy life and that kind of rustic feel, which isn't my forte. I'm like, I respect it, but it's just not my thing. So I did appreciate that because it just kind of felt more like she was at a ranch, and the ranch could be anywhere, and it was more winter, and it wasn't like, most of the time she spent just kind of like taking care of horses, like cleaning them and stuff. So it really didn't feel too much like you were going the grueling life of a cowboy. So I did like that, but it does give you a sense of what it is to have that kind of rustic life at the same time with being mildly covered. So I did appreciate that. I did like that. Second, the spice. It takes a bit to build to the spice. There's a few hints at it, a few kind of like thoughts and daydreams, but it doesn't get rolling until maybe 200 pages in, somewhere around there. It slowly builds. And then once it starts going, it starts going. Once again, Elliot Rose, she's a spicy girl. And in Vengeful Gods, there was a lot of very, very like, dark, possibly, taboo type ones. This doesn't have that. There are there are graphic, spicy scenes. But to me, they felt a lot tamer versus what she had in the Vengeful Gods book. So, it wasn't as dark or as, deep dive into it, but there are some spice. There is some spice, and there is a lot of dirty talk in this spice. So, well done on that part. And then the other thing that I liked is I did like the ending. I thought that the ending was really sweet. It had an epilogue, which I could have done, I get it, whatever, but, it didn't really need to have the epilogue because the ending was really kind of just lovely and sweet and cute in its own way, and it was exactly what it needed to be. So I thought that was really well done and enjoyable. So as far as let's just say 3 things I didn't enjoy. While Layla is supposed to be kind of like doing her veterinary studies, and the job that she's offered is supposed to be kind of like a ranch hand / veterinarian, you really don't see her like exhibiting the skills of what it is to be a veterinarian. And I wish that would have been covered a little bit more. Like, I didn't need explicit things in there, but maybe more challenges that she had to kind of come across as a student studying, veterinary medicine. There's one spot where she has to help like some cows, but it's very mild, and she kind of locks up when this happens. She is kind of prone to like anxiety and panic attacks, which is really sweet because Colt does find a way of helping her through those. But I was just, she explains, this is different than being in like enclosed walls of a vet's office doing these same things. This is out in the real world in the dark and, emergency situations. But it kind of conflicted for me because when you hear her like background and her resume, she's just been nonstop working at these kind of farms and ranches and things like that. So for her to kind of lock up when this is going on, I just felt was kind of at odds with who she was. And it just kind of like, I felt like if she would have like stepped up, or maybe there would have been like another scene where like, I don't know, like a horse or a cow gives birth and she's there kind of running the show on that one, would have showed her strength a little bit more. In that area, and made her seem a little bit more, strong as a, as a character. So that was a little bit of a at odds part for me. Secondly, even though I did like, that it was, it had the spice, it had its moments, it started to get to where it was like they were bunnies. And I get it, they had, they were up against the clock, I guess it was. But the amount of times you get this "see you next Tuesday" was just kind of becoming like you could do a drinking game to it. And it just started like, you get to the point and you're like, okay, this is going to happen again. And I just would have liked maybe a little bit more flow in between those scenes. Like, I'm not saying that there was too much or too little. I'm just saying that in the spaces between those spicy scenes, I think there could have been a little bit more build up to the stories, to the emotion aspects, to kind of bring those spicy scenes into the relationship a little bit more. But it was what it was. And, I'm like, the spice was good, but it's just like, there were certain things I was just like, okay, whatever. And then lastly, the challenge or the critical crisis that was kind of keeping these two apart, for me, it was kind of lackluster because the big crutch in their relationship, as it were, is Casey. And Layla explains dozens of times that they had a small fling, that she's over it. She wants nothing to do with Casey, and everything to do with Colt. And Colt is kind of like, this is my son. And now, while I can understand Colt's perspective of how he kind of talks with Casey, and there's a little bit of feelings like maybe my son wants to make it up to this girl, maybe he wants to do whatever, I can't step on that. I can understand that. But from Layla's perspective, she kept being like, oh, I don't want to get in father and son ways, even though technically she's not in the way because she doesn't want to be with Casey. And so that, her putting her foot down with that aspect and trying to move closer to Colt, it didn't seem as strong to me. And then when Casey does get back up to the ranch from the snow, what happens was just kind of like, okay, what you thought was going to be this big controversy, this big kind of crisis moment, had kind of an easy out in my mind. So that was kind of just a little lacking for me in that part. Although I will say that as far as the book goes, my favorite characters were probably, I think her name was Sage, and that's Layla's like best friend. And she doesn't make a lot of appearances, but when she does, like, her sassiness and her personality kind of shine through. And so I know that this is supposed to become a series. So if she gets her own book, I'm going to be very tempted to read what happens, just because her character was like really funny. And then on top of that, I actually did like Casey. Like, Layla was good and Colt was good, but I like how Casey kind of develops, and especially towards the end, I did like him. So I would be curious to see if he gets his own love story in the series later on as well. But with that being said, my overall rating for this is probably a mid to high 3-star. Once again, cowboy romances aren't my thing, and I was hoping that with how Vengeful Gods kind of pulled me in to this very, very dark taboo part that I never thought I would go and fully enjoy it, I thought maybe she would be able to do the same thing with the cowboy romance, and it just didn't happen. So it automatically wasn't really going to be the 5-star for me. And then as far as, like I said, it just felt like the problem that was kind of the elephant in the room for them really didn't seem like much of an elephant in the room to me. And just as the story kind of went on, it just felt like it was just glossing the top of those emotional depths and how puzzle pieces fit in the relationship that the author did so well in Vengeful Gods that wasn't here in this one for this book. Even though you had this close proximity situation where they were the only two, like you would figure they would really kind of dive into the depths of their backgrounds and their backstories and kind of emotionally get that kind of attachment as well. And it just felt like it was glossed over and not really like hard hitting as it was in her other works. So that kind of demoted it, I guess, a little bit in that way. But that being said, I think it was still a well done book. I liked the fact, like I said, that it wasn't as fully cowboy, as fully Western as, you know, some other books have been that I just can't deal with because, like I said, not for me. So I like that. I would say that if you're a fan of Yellowstone, like I haven't seen Yellowstone, I really want to see Yellowstone. Like I'm gonna just have to like buy the series on DVD or something and watch it, because I've seen the clips of it, and from the clips it looks fantastic. And they have that character, I think it's Rip or whatever it is, he's the boyfriend or husband of Beth's character in there. I'm sure you can find clips about them. If I'm wrong on the name, please correct me in the comments below. But he has that dark hair, those dark eyes, that black cowboy hat, but he is ever the gentleman, protective nature. So I kind of feel like if you like that, or maybe that's where the author got her inspiration from, with some Yellowstone. If you like Yellowstone, if you like his kind of character, that is kind of how I imagined Colt to be, as far as personality and that gruff kind of grumpy coldness part of things. I do feel like Colt and Layla do have a kind of cute, sweet relationship, despite the age gap, which I think, like I said, I think she's like 24, 25, and I think he's like 42. Their personalities do click and complement each other in a very kind of, like I said, light way. So I do recommend it. I think it is a lot of fun. If you like cowboys, you know, you're gonna like Colt a lot. If you like kind of grumpy sunshine romances, you're gonna like it. If you like stuck in, you know, I don't want to say it's the one bed trope, but it's the one place trope because they're the only two. I will say, as far as possible triggers, obviously there is explicit spicy scenes in there, so if that is not your thing, this wouldn't be for you. There is some, not very graphic, but there is some cruelty to animals. I think it's like one or two scenes. So, but it's not explicitly graphic, but I will mention it. There is also mention of possible assault on minor females. It's discussed about in the past very quickly, not graphically at all. And there is also attempt at sexual assault via drinks. That is part of a scene that it doesn't go full in it. It hints at it of what's to come, but it doesn't happen. I know that's a little bit of a spoiler, but I'm not going to lay out the scene for you, so you can say that. But I do want you to be aware that that is something that kind of hints at and is discussed. But it's all very kind of glossed over, hinted at, or happened in the past, and they're just talking about things. So it's not detailed, it's not graphic in any way on any three of those things, but I feel like they should be mentioned in case that is a spot of contention for you and would make you not want to read it. I don't want to put you guys in that spot. But like I said, well done. I was happy to read it because it did, you know, Elliot Rose has this way of writing certain scenes and giving little points that will make you chuckle. She has some smart, witty comebacks and things, and I found that really, really enjoyable in her writing, and that did carry through into this book. So, like I said, I'm going to say a high 3-star for me. Do you recommend if you're looking for a cowboy romance, if you're looking for a spicy romance, if you're looking for the grumpy sunshine? He gives her hat, meaning, you know, I give you my heart. It had some cute moments to it, some beautiful scenery. Then I recommend this book. Once again, it comes out June 22nd. So any day now, it will be hopping out near you guys. So if you're interested, pick it up, and I hope you enjoy it. Other than that, I hope to see you guys in the next video, and hope you guys are all doing well. Bye.